It's 2012 and I'm a sapper platoon leader tucked away in some forgotten base in a forgotten corner of Afghanistan. Word has just come down the pipe that I will be assuming the role of the senior platoon leader in charge of the mobility support platoon, and my replacement is on his way. In the meanwhile though, the company my platoon is attached to is also having a change of command. Change of command in theater means two things: command of command inventory layouts, and stupid fucking missions to impress the bosses. Anyone who has ever been in the military knows what I am talking about. Whenever a new commander takes over, you can bet that the next couple of months will involve a whole mess of overambitious or poorly thought out missions and or training so that the new commander can impress his new bosses. Some commanders are better than others in this respect, and I am just as guilty of it, but everyone seems to do it. Once the layouts are over, the planning begins, and it is pretty clear what our target is. Geelong. In Geelong, our company area of operations was something to behold. It was twice the size of the AO of the entire rest of our battalion, even more impassable, and worse still, we weren't even a full company, just 2 platoons. It had been made clear to us on the outset of the deployment that Task Force Spartan was the entire brigade's economy of force operation. The brigade wanted to mass forces in certain critical districts, and that meant that they had to find a place to cut forces. Our job was simple: hold on to the ground that we had, don't get overrun, as the last coalition forces to occupy these bases had, and try not to die. Despite how challenging that mission already was, you can't tell a bunch of pumped up young soldiers that their job for the next year is to hole up and just try to survive. That meant that we took on an aggressive defensive posture, patrolling constantly and always working to keep the Taliban and RAO guessing and on their back foot. Sometimes that meant conducting patrols deep into Taliban territory, and the deepest we would go was a town called Geelong. Situated at the base of Geelong Gar, White Mountain, Geelong was basically the equivalent of the Taliban's FOB. The mountain stood in the way of our optics and ISR assets, so they could comfortably mass and plan back there, and the mountain itself overlooked all of our bases, giving their spotters a commanding view. Even better for the Taliban, the road to Geelong was so treacherous that route clearance vehicles could not drive it, meaning they could emplace IEDs along it easily and effectively ensure that our mounted patrols would not be able to reach it. We still went to Geelong occasionally though. Every month or so, we would plan a big operation, team up with special forces, bring some ANA special forces, line up some special assets, and move into Geelong just to send that message that we could still get there. We would show up, talk to some folks, and then leave. Trouble is, this time the new commander didn't want to just show up, chat, and turn around. He wanted to show up and stay there for 2 weeks. The problem: going to Geelong was one thing. Even going there for a couple nights was reasonable. Going there for 2 weeks though was a clear provocation. It was us barging into the Taliban's backyard and picking a fight. To be fair, that's something I wanted to do too. For months, I had been itching for us to extend our network of COPs and OPs deeper into Taliban territory, and I specifically wanted to construct an OP on a small hill overlooking Geelong, and then occupy that base indefinitely. That base would still have been a clear provocation, and it would still have been a fight, but it would have been a fight on our terms, and it would have had a point to it. It would allow us to push the Taliban out of the area of Geelong. Going into Geelong for 2 weeks, sitting on that hill and twiddling our thumbs though, that just struck me like picking a fight for no reason at all. That wasn't even the real problem though. The real problem was the time frame. See, the Taliban does not have many heavy weapons. They are hard to move around without being detected, and intelligence works hard to track their mortar, recoilless rifle, RCR, and heavy machine gun teams. What that means is that if you show up in the middle of some random patch of Taliban territory in armored vehicles, you are generally pretty safe, unless you are right in the middle of their district HQ. It's unlikely they'll have the weapons necessary to really hurt you. If you show up in some spot for 2 weeks though, invite them to come fight you, and then sit around without constructing some serious fortifications, every heavy weapons team in a 2-week radius is going to converge on your position and turn you into a cautionary tale for every American that follows. That's especially true when the only defensive position you can occupy is directly observed by a giant mountain and is immediately adjacent to a village. meaning they can fire down into your positions and sneak up to you with no standoff. The plan. As an army leader, you don't get to say, "No, I don't want to go there because we will have to fight." Instead, I had to figure out how to keep the Taliban from massing every HMG, RCR, and mortar in Kandahar province and murdering us. The solution was actually fairly simple in principle, and it was basically just an extension of our current strategy. Keep the Taliban guessing and keep them indecisive. If we could do just enough to interrupt their command and control, their planning processes, and sabotage their confidence, we could probably keep them off of our asses for a little while. It would let us show the flag, demonstrate to the local Afghans that the Taliban was not as tough as they said they were, and get us out of there safely. But what will keep the Taliban guessing? What could we really do to keep them off of our asses? We could prank them, bro. So, as we planned for the operation, I also began planning out a 2-week schedule of fuckery. Every day or every other day, we would have a new surprise in store for the Taliban. Don't dig there, sir. For the first 3 days of the mission, we kept things pretty straightforward. We knew it would take a while for the Taliban to realize that we were there to stay, so we had some time to just get ready. What that meant for my platoon was digging in. Our strikers were already upgunned. We were a company minus in size, but had a full infantry company of weapons, so we had a couple extra 50 cals and 240s, so circling them up on the hill overlooking Geelong was already imposing. To add to that, I brought out a couple of extra 50 cals on tripods, and we dug them in on top of the hill, and placed trip flares all around the base of the hill. The trouble with Afghan soil, or at least the soil where we were, is that it's rocky as hell. Digging was a slow and arduous process. It would take all day just to dig a ranger grave, and it took us all 3 days of almost constant digging just to get some shoulder-deep fighting positions. In those kind of conditions, it can be tempting to take shortcuts. So when I saw my commander, who was accompanying us for the mission, and his RTO building a fighting position out of a few giant piles of rocks in the middle of our position, I advised him not to use those rocks. I should have been more specific about why and/or paid attention to him after, because later that same day, he came back and tapped me on the shoulder. "Bonsai," he whispered. We were using that pile of stones to make a fighting position, and we dug up some bones. "Yes, sir. That's 'cause those are cairns. The center of this hill is a graveyard." The new commander went ghost white. For a second there, he must have been certain that his career was over. The guy's previous deployment had been to Iraq, and Iraqis are a lot more sensitive about things like that. In Iraq, digging up a graveyard would have been a huge incident and led to tons of increased insurgent activity. Thankfully, the Afghans were pretty cool about that kind of thing. 3 generations of endless warfare have produced a pretty pragmatic people. I explained that the Afghans would not be upset so long as he placed the stones back, and it wasn't obviously done on purpose or as an attempt to disrespect the site. He was happy to accept this alternative to an international accident and losing his career. And after that, he and his RTO dug a proper fighting position closer to the rest of our trenches. Artillery shenanigans. Day 4 was the first day we had surprises scheduled for the Taliban. We knew they would be observing us from on top of the mountain, and it was pretty obvious that the best way to disrupt the Taliban was to disrupt their spotting. Here is where field artillery really got to be my heroes. See, apparently when they're in theater, field artillery has to fire a certain number of rounds of each type every so often just to certify their guns or something. I forget what the process was called, but it basically meant that every couple of weeks, every gun would have to fire a round or two at the side of some empty mountain. Knowing that we had the mission coming up, I worked with our fire support officer to make sure that Geelong would be the target of all those test shots at once every other day intervals throughout the 2-week period. It was a way for us to essentially fire artillery randomly at a mountain without actually breaking any rules. Certification rounds weren't the end of it though. For the last few months, we had also made a habit of firing illumination rounds over random Afghan army bases in the middle of the night. It was sort of our way of spooking the Taliban and reminding them that if they tried to sneak up on an Afghan base at any time, they could suddenly find themselves bathed in flare light. That worked real well, but by this point, The Taliban were becoming fairly used to the elimination rounds. Planning for the mission though, I looked over the full roster of rounds the battery and RAO had, and noticed something I had not expected to see. Smoke rounds. Smoke rounds are designed to airburst and release a massive curtain of smoke. They are great for doing things like covering a tank battalion, charging through the Fulda Gap, or covering your sappers, while they reduce a minefield under fire. But in a low-intensity conflict like Afghanistan, all they really do is take up space. I was a little shocked to see they were even in the battery's inventory of rounds. Still, it gave me an idea. The Taliban had probably never seen a smoke round fired. Hell, I had never seen one fired. I knew that if we ever wanted to scare the pants off them, we could fire off a few smoke rounds. Even better, because smoke rounds were not dangerous, we would not be restricted from firing them near villages like Shillong. So, it came to be that about a week into the operation, we did a pre-planned smoke mission on top of Jilangar. Over the course of about 30 seconds, the mountain top went from perfectly normal to billowing curtains of smoke down the side like a massive avalanche. The whole mountain was covered in smoke, and that's when we started to hear the spotters chirp up. The Taliban uses unencrypted comms, so we can hear the spotters when they chat, and they were going nuts. In the midst of all the panic cries and confused radio checks on their end, one of them finally cut through the traffic to cry out, "They're burning down the mountain." Honestly, if I didn't know that it was just smoke, I probably would have thought the same thing. But the absurdity of this panicked Taliban spotter crying out in fear as smoke rolled over him, surely thinking he was about to be doused in napalm, left us all laughing. In a few minutes, all the smoke was gone, but we did not hear the spotters again for another day. Helicopter shenanigans. As the days progressed, we began to receive intelligence that exactly what we feared was beginning to happen. The Taliban were beginning to consolidate in the region, and they had moved at least one mortar team into our vicinity. The pranks had slowed things down, but the last week was going to be a real nail-biter. That much was predictable though, and we had stacked up most of our air support requests for the second week we would be out there. Among these requests, we had 2 wildcards, and the first was a pair of empty Blackhawks. See, in terms of how air support is prioritized, it goes something like this: Special Operations, support for air assaults / big missions, support for operations in our brigade's main effort districts, support for our battalion in their main effort AO, and somewhere way at the bottom is support for those idiots we told to just hide in their bases and survive. So when we put in our request for any and all air support throughout this 2-week mission, one of the bottom of the barrel offerings that came back was essentially, you can have 2 empty Blackhawks, but we can't support an air assault, so you can't use them for that. Basically, all you can do with them is have them fly around for funsies. Do you still want them? Maybe 2 empty Blackhawks aren't useful for a real operation, but when you're just fucking with the Taliban, they will do the job. Day 9. The Blackhawks check on station for their mission. It's simple. They are going to perform false insertions at 2 points on top of Jilangar. We proceed their landing with more smoke to really sell the idea that we're actually putting troops up top. Nothing is up there, but the Taliban does not know it, and it would be another couple of days before a spotter worked up the balls to go back up there and check. The second wildcard was a repeater hunting team. The army had some cool guy name for the teams that I've since forgotten, but the basic idea is that you could request an Apache teamed up with a Blackhawk with radio direction finding equipment on it. They will come out, fly around an area, use the RDF to pinpoint a signal's location, and then the Apache would destroy it, either a spotter or the repeater. Trouble is, when the repeater hunting team finally showed up, the local Taliban commander was wise to what was going on. I honestly don't know how this guy was smart enough to figure things out, but as soon as the team showed up, the chatter went something like this. There were 2 helicopters. What kind of helicopters? One with the guns and one with the soldiers. Shut up then. They're looking for us. The spotter shut up. Now there was no radio traffic coming in, and with the team on station for only about a half hour, we had a very short window to get them talking. After being here for over a week too, There was very little news for the spotters to actually call in about, so their radio traffic was also a little sparse already at this point. That is when I had my epiphany. As an army leader, I spent all my time working hard to keep my soldiers from doing stupid things and getting up to hijinks, but right now, that was exactly what we needed. I went running around the hilltop and let all my soldiers know that they needed to start acting like jackasses. Do anything you can to get the spotters talking. Honk the horn, dance, do backflips, whatever the fuck you can do to be spotted and get them talking. Pretty soon, the entire hilltop had erupted with the stupidity of 30 combat-armed soldiers embracing their ape-like selves. I even got into it when my gunner ran over to me with 2 long whip radio antennas, tossed me one, and challenged me to a sword fight. It was about the most fun you could have in a combat zone in the middle of enemy territory. It didn't take long before the radio came back to life. The Americans are fighting each other. Be quiet. They're trying to find the repeater. One of them is dancing with his pants down. Stop talking. But the spotter couldn't stop talking. It was like he was hypnotized by the jackassery. Eventually, the commander stopped trying to tell him to stop talking because he could tell he was only adding to the chatter. But the spotter never stopped giving updates. For the next 10 minutes, a constant string of chatter came in until we finally heard the Apache call in that he had found the repeater. A short burst of chain gun fire later, and the radio chatter got a lot more staticky. End of the Afghan Prank War. Somehow, all of our stupid planning paid off. The Taliban did eventually do some fighting, but it was limited to just some long-range harassment fire around day 12. Nothing that was a real threat. And the mortar team that entered the area never even fired a round. I can't say for sure that what we did actually did anything more than scare a couple spotters and blow up a repeater, but I am pretty confident that if it weren't for all that, we would have had a seriously deadly fight on our hands by week 2. Afterwards, I would go on to lead the mobility support platoon in Operation Goatfuck, and the new commander and my replacement would go on to do an awesome job on their own up there. Most importantly, everyone in that platoon and that company came home safe. For the Taliban's part, I am sure there was some former spotter somewhere out there telling their version of events where the Americans went crazy after only 2 weeks occupying a hill near Geelong. You know what? I believe it. I believe every word. I believe it happened. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you do and you want to hear more, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment down below, as it lets the algorithm know that you like my content and it promotes it to more people. My goal for the channel is to hit 50,000 subscribers, and we're closing in fast, so thank you, and back to the stories. X. I am going to tell you the scariest thing that's ever happened to me. Live in West Virginia, summer of my junior year. Our friend Jake is turning 18 years old. Party at Spencer's. We decide to go camping. I bring my big-ass tent. It's me, Spencer, Jake, Sam, and Shane. Pick out a place not far from Spencer's, but deep enough in the woods that going back to the house is damn near impossible in the dark. Okay, I'm gonna continue this with a little backstory. Gonna break greentext for a bit here. So, there is this friend of ours who we used to hang with, but we kind of got disgusted with him, and he's been basically fading out of our group. His ego is bloated. He never contributed weed, and he often hindered our adventures as a result of his folks having caught him with weed one too many times. And yes, we are all pretty big stoners. We go out to Spencer's quite a bit, as he lives about a half an hour out of town and his parents don't care, which basically means we can do whatever we want within reason. We mostly just get high. The place that Spencer lives in is a very, very small wooded area known locally as 10 Mile, and it has its share of spooky stories, including a satanic church about a mile away from Spencer's place. One that was often brought up was something called the Big White Thing. Supposedly 9 feet tall and white, it was sort of like a Sasquatch type character that was blamed, in jest, for a few strange incidents of literally disassembled deer. However, we always knew it was urban legend. Also note that while I had read plenty of Goatman type stories, I had never gone camping, and didn't think we'd actually run into anything. Anyways, back to the green text. It's about 8 when we get all our shit to the site. Spencer and Jake get a fire going as Sam and Shane bus supplies back and forth from the entry into the woods. I begin to set up the tent. Should have started when we had more daylight, but we wasted our time getting high. Oh well. So, right as I begin to single-handedly put up a 9-person tent, our friend Corey shows up. Turns out he walked 9 fucking miles of hilly road to get here. Not even invited. What the fuck, man? I tell him to get his lazy ass over here and help me. He tries, but of course he is too tired to do much of anything. Fuck it. Go Bear Grylls on this bitch and decide to put it up myself. As the sun falls, Spencer gets the call that more weed was on its way. Spencer, Jake, Sam, and Shane leave to go get it, leaving me here with fat-ass Corey. His phone has a bright-ass flashlight though, so I'm not complaining. We're alone, it's about 9 o'clock, and it's pitch fucking black without the flashlight. Then some shit starts to happen. So about 20 minutes in, his phone fucking dies. So here I am, single-handedly pitching a big-ass fucking tent in the dark with no one here to keep me company, except for Man-Tits McGee. Sort of hear sticks break around the clearing we're in. Several times it sounded like they were heading back with the weed. Each time I stand up and go, Spencer? Listen a few minutes, get no response, and then go back to the tent. Start to notice a dead smell. Figure it might be dead fish that washed up on the edge of the lake. It goes away after 30 minutes, so fuck it. So, around 10 fucking 30, I get the tent up, throw all of my shit in there and lie down, hoping that they get here soon enough. Continue to hear what sounds like the group coming back, yet each time it is nothing. The smell comes back like 5 minutes after we get in the tent. I figure it's just a musty-ass tent. Start to feel real uneasy. Play Shine On You Crazy Diamond on my iPod. It calms my nerves for a bit. Eventually close my tent door because I just don't feel safe. God damn it. 45 minutes later they show up. Feel relieved. We get high for a few hours and everything is fine. The possibility of a goat man is on my mind at this point, but I keep telling myself it's just fucking bullshit from 4chan. So, 2:30 rolls around. We are outside the tent at this point, roasting chicken dogs around a pretty good fire. The smell is kinda gone, but I may just not be thinking about it. I go to take a piss like 30 or 40 feet away from the group, facing the pitch black darkness of the woods with my dick in my hand. Start to fucking flip in my head for some reason. All of a sudden I see something, sort of like that scene in Signs where the alien walks past the birthday party. It's basically a flash of white, but it's so bright in contrast to everything else, I sort of make out a humanoid figure walking behind 2 bushes. Too much for my ass. I zip my fly and fucking book it back to my camp. Start awkwardly laughing and tell my friends I saw the big white thing. We all have a laugh. The smell is like overwhelming to me, but it seems like I'm the only one who notices it. I just pretend everything is cool, though I've been scared out of my high. Grin and bear it. Constantly hearing sticks breaking and watching my back. It's now 4. Jake, Spencer, and Corey crashed. Me, Sam, and Shane are all up. They usually stay up this late on the weekends. Me, I'm just scared as fucking shit. We bullshit and sneak 1 or 2 tiny bowls while the other guys sleep. The smell has honestly stopped bothering me and I just feel creeped out now. Sam and Shane are completely oblivious. Whoop-de-whoop, time to piss again. Shane does too, so he goes with me and we go back to back, about 15 feet away from each other. Feel a little bit more confident that I'm safe. Huh, must be nothing. Time passes, the fire starts to burn away. Time for firewood. We all spread out around the campground. I'm on edge, but I don't want to come back empty-handed. Suddenly notice a different smell. Kind of like sweat, but really super old. Start picking up wood quickly. Start to think about heading back. All of a sudden, I hear, Spencer? Fucking freeze. My fucking voice. Look in all directions. I can barely see 5 feet in front of me, and it's all woods anyway. I start to go, no, it's a non, figuring that Sam or Shane mistook me for Spencer for some odd reason. There is dead fucking silence. Like, no crickets, no wind, no leaves or sticks. Nothing. Sounds like an airproof room. Right behind me, right in my fucking ear, I hear, "Spencer?" Fucking book it back to camp. Start screaming and shit, trying to wake everybody up and get everyone in a group. We all get in the tent and zip it up. Everybody else is kinda pissed at me because I freaked them out. Tell them that I fucking heard someone talking to me out in the woods. Tell them it sounded just like my voice. Tell them about how I've been feeling the whole night. They just tell me I'm fucking crazy. Sam and Shane get back out of the tent. Everyone else just goes back to sleep. I get in my sleeping bag, but I'm not fucking sleeping tonight. After about half an hour, I'm feeling fucking tired. It's around 5, I remember checking the time on my phone. Been fading in and out for like 15. After momentarily regaining total consciousness, I notice that I only hear words. There is no fire, and Sam and Shane aren't talking. Whatevs. Not 5 minutes later, Shane walks into the tent. It's dark, but Shane is fairly short, so I figure it's him. He sort of awkwardly stands up in the tent for a bit. Tell him to just lie the fuck down. I sort of whispered it. He does. Go back to drifting. About 10 minutes later, I hear boots running. Sam practically fucking dives in the tent, but he doesn't manage to wake anybody up. Even Shane is fast asleep too. Sam tells me he heard talking. Tells me it began to mimic them. Tells me they fucking booked it. I point out that Shane got here quite a while ago and wasn't freaking out. He sort of goes cold. I look over. Shane is sleeping like a baby. Sam just fucking lies down, not saying a word. I fell asleep. The rest of the night was calm. Wake up the next morning. Everything would appear to be fine. Me, Jake, and Spencer are the first ones out of our tent at like 7:30. Feel quite refreshed for some reason, like I took the perfect power nap. We all smoke a cig. I tell them about the freaky shit last night. They reveal they smelled the smell too. Jake just thought it was a dead animal in the woods. Spencer thought it was Corey's fucking sweaty state. After the cig, we wake up Sam and Shane for a wake and bake. Pull Shane and ask for a cig, then pull him aside and ask him if he had a rough night last night. He said yeah, and that he and Sam saw and heard some freaky shit, mistaking it for me trying to catch up with them. They say that they saw something running through the woods, and then they ran back to the campsite. Says that he eventually got split up with Sam, and didn't find the camp till like an hour ago. I am noping my fucking ass off on the inside. Says that when he got in the tent, everyone was sleeping, so he just lied down. Tell him I was awake when he got into the tent, and that I said something to him. Tells me that he didn't remember any of that, but that he was in a really shitty mental state, so it's likely he forgot it. We smoke a few bowls and everything is fine again, but I don't sleep for the next week. There are woods all around my neighborhood. I haven't been in them since that time.